Guide with Rain Tree Nursery, and today I'm here with Richard. We're at NWFRUIT, which is the research station out in Skagit Valley, Washington. And today Richard is going to talk me through kiwis and kiwi pruning. So what do you got in your hand? Talk me through this a bit.
Okay, well before you actually look for this in the hand, obviously if you're growing kiwis, you're growing them for the fruit. You want to have fruit. And kiwis can be pruned to leave a lot of fruit, can be pruned to leave no fruit. So we're going to start with how the fruit is grown, where it shows up on the plant.
All right.
So what I've got here is a branch that I took off this winter that shows the actual stems from the old fruit. So when you pick the fruit, a lot of times the stem stays on the plant, so you've got a little stem, you can see where it was. So you got the stems here.
Yeah.
They're all growing on a little short stub, which we call a fruiting spur. Spur being very short, and the fruit comes off of that. The fruiting spurs grow on last year's wood. So this was this was this year's wood, this was last year's wood. This whole thing was attached to what we call the cordon, which is a bigger piece of structure that we'll show in a second. Once the fruiting spur, or the fruiting lateral has produced spurs, it will not produce spurs again.
Oh, so you want to keep those or leave?
This particular branch can go away
thing.
totally. Now, you notice here at the end we got longer branches on the end.
Yeah.
This was also the same year's growth as this. This might have spurs on it, but it's
spurs, or
this might have spurs. This is a lateral. Might have spurs, but it's a long way from the central part of your organization of your tree, of your bush, and so you really don't need to have it getting further and further. You want to keep it condensed.
And is that just for picking ease, or is that for the health of
It's
the
mostly
kiwi?
for picking ease and for keeping things in closer. If you don't, I've seen pictures of these things growing up over the top of a house.
Oh, sure.
And all the fruit's way out at the end that you can't get to anyway.
Okay.
So
you've kind of concentrated. You've made sure that the fruiting spurs are more up here, or?
They tend on this one. They're the whole length of the lateral. Some of the things I've read look like maybe they show up early on it. So I'm not really sure how often you'll do it. These can be cut off at the edge of your structure. You need a structure to support this. If you don't have a structure to support everything, it's all going to be sitting down on the ground. You'll never get underneath it to do anything. Okay, so now we're going to show the basic structure of what we want a kiwi vine to look like with this on the support structure we have.
Sure.
These are old plants that were brought into this garden, so we're sort of stuck with what we've got.
Yeah. How old would you say this is? They're 20 years?
20 to 30 years maybe.
Okay.
I don't know how long they're out in the main research station here.
And it's still going.
It's still growing. They'll go for a long time. You can see how
Okay.
big they are. If you're doing this from scratch, then you would start from something smaller from the ground. You want to go straight up to the top of your structure. And
so you've trained this to go straight up.
Straight up or nearly straight up.
Yeah.
We've got a post here you can tie it to. I've got this tied up to keep it there. From that point, we want to then have what we call a cordon. I mentioned it before. And the cordons, in our case, go north-south, and they are going along this post, this bar, which supports it, because it gets very heavy.
Yeah.
If you don't support it, it's not gonna last.
And you said north-south, so we've got these two. Is there a reason it's north to south?
So that morning and afternoon sun gets in here equally.
Evenly on both sides.
Right. If you put on east-west, then the north side doesn't get as much sun.
Sure.
Yeah, you can do that. A lot of us is how much room do you have in your garden?
Yeah.
Sometimes you're stuck. I've got one that's in the middle of a tree, so I'm stuck.
Yeah.
It doesn't get much light at all. So here, this is ideal because it's sun up to sundown, you got sunshine.
And that's directly related to the fruit production of it.
Fruit production grows better, it flowers, it produces fruit.
Okay.
So we've got this cordon, and the cordon in our case it's 10 feet each direction in our structure.
Yeah.
And that cordon will stay there 5 to 10 years as long as it's productive. And what it will do, it will put off laterals. Right there. I just showed you. So this would come out 1 year, go the whole length, get fruit off of it. Once you've got fruit off of that, unless there's some reason to pull something in here close, and sometimes there is, you just cut that off.
Okay.
Now, we look at, after that's cut off, you then look at what's still growing. Over here, I've got a nice one that's new growth. So I saved it.
Sure.
And I tied it down to the end of my thing. Somewhere along that line, I should get fruit next year.
Okay.
This coming spring. Same thing on the other side. Now, depending on how your plants are, sometimes you get lots of fruiting laterals. Sometimes you can only get a few. If you only have a few, then you start playing around with something here. This is an old piece of wood, but I got laterals over here. I've left some on that I wouldn't normally leave, but there's not much other growth out here.
And when you decide to prune, are you pruning its spacing, shape, congestion of the fruit?
If you have enough branches, every 8 to 12 inches on each side for a lateral. If you've only got 3 laterals on it, and they're all right here, I'd leave them all.
Okay.
So
save the fruit.
It's really hard to come up with a hard and fast rule that fits every plant.
Okay.
But there's guidelines.
Yeah.
And if you look at this one, most of our, at least on this half, most of our laterals on this side. This one, they're mostly on that side. I don't know.
We've got a few that are so long, these growth, and then some that are shorter. Now, is there anything to that? Should we be pruning these back?
I leave them out to the edge of my structure.
Okay.
So the laterals go 10 feet each way. Each plant has got a 10-foot section with the plant in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So I'll leave them to go 5 feet out, and the other one comes in 5 feet from the other next plant.
Okay.
We've had cases in here where we had a male plant that everybody thought was a female because there's fruit on it.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was coming from the previous plant, coming across.
Sure.
That's the other thing you need to know. With most kiwis, you need both a male and a female plant.
Do you need one for one, a male to
No,
one female?
one male will handle a fairly large number. I don't know what the total is, but of the females.
Okay.
If you have a fuzzy kiwi, it will definitely pollinate a hardy kiwi.
Okay.
Probably goes the other way as well, but there's some question about whether the pollen on a hardy is strong enough and big enough to actually pollinate a fuzzy.
Gotcha.
I've had people question that, although when we did that here, because our fuzzy male died back and didn't bloom for a couple of years, we still had fruit. So it seems to work okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot I'm still learning on all this stuff, but I got the basics down.
Richard, thank you so much for walking us through pruning kiwis. I honestly didn't know how to do it at all, but have thoroughly enjoyed the hardy kiwis and the fuzzies at Raintree Nursery's orchard. And I'll be honest, I've been a little intimidated by them, but are you telling me that pruning kiwis, I shouldn't be scared, that I can learn it, that they're pretty resilient? What's your last words of wisdom?
They are very resilient. I don't know if I would have cut everything off if it grew back. Probably would.
Okay.
But you can prune really heavily and they're going to take off and go.
Okay.
It may take several years. If you got a kiwi that has not been pruned recently,
oh, sure.
It may take several years of working it to get it to what you actually want it to look like.
Okay.
I've been working these here for about 4 years now. Most of the plants are where I want them. Some are not yet.
Yeah.
So it is a process. You probably can't get it in one. If you try to do it in 1 year, you're not going to have any fruit at all.
Oh, yeah.
So the combination of preserving some fruit and working the plant to the form you want it to have.
Gotcha.
As you go. Starting from a new plant, it's easy to get it formed, although I was told it takes 7 years to get fruit.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Richard
says,
says,
have.
patience and confidence when pruning kiwis. This is Rye from Raintree Nursery. Thank you so much, Richard.
You bet.